Welcome back, folks. Today we'll be making a Xenomorph head and neck. I'll be using the templates from Epic Cardboard Props. But as usual, I'll be customizing this project to make it my own. I printed out the templates in cardstock and was planning on using it instead of cardboard for the project. Although I used cardstock for some smaller builds, it didn't work out for this larger build. It was a little too flimsy. So I ended up using cardboard for the stuff that I hadn't already done and supplementing the cardstock that I'd already done with a little cardboard. I'm going to take a minute early in this video to remind you all to press that like button. You're viewing me, but you're not pressing that like button. I realize that sometimes people forget after they finish watching the video, but it is important, so please, thank you. I cut some small squares of cardboard and glued them between the template pieces to make the build a little more stable. Right here, I'm reinforcing the piece of cardstock with cardboard. In hindsight, I should have used cardboard instead of cardstock for this section of the build. After transferring the registration marks to the other side, I repeated the same procedure to complete the build. With all of the skeletal structure completed, I cut strips of cardboard to apply the first layer of skin. For that, I used hot glue. With the first layer of skin completed, I hand-formed strips of cardboard for the second layer. I used contact cement to attach the second layer of skin. Unlike the original build by Epic Cardboard Props, I decided to apply a third layer of skin. I'll be using brown paper for that third layer, and I'll attach it with a diluted mixture of white glue. While the glue for the final layer of skin is drying, I'm going to use popsicle sticks to create the structure for the inner jaw. After soaking the sticks in hot water to get them more malleable, I bent them into the shape I wanted and then glued several of them together. After doing this 4 times and letting it dry, I attached the pieces with 1/4-inch dowels and pieces of 1/4-inch ply. The two sections were attached together to complete the inner jaw structure. I cut strips of 2mm foam to create the tissue and ligaments for the inner jaw. With the structure for the inner jaw completed, I pulled out my brand new cordless airbrush kit. The kit contains a mini battery-operated compressor, 2 rechargeable lithium-ion batteries, a dual-function airbrush, small plastic funnel, an extension hose for the airbrush, as well as a C adapter cable to recharge the battery. The battery also has a lit indicator to show whether you have 25, 50, 75, or 100% charge. The kit also comes with 2 feeder cups, one standard and one large. Although I'm far from the final painting in this build, I think it's best to pre-paint the inner jaw. I'll be using some acrylic paint that's specially formulated for the airbrush. Since I'm a newbie with the airbrush, I've become accustomed with using a little bit of thinner to get a better flow. I've also learned that it's quicker and more efficient to mix the paint and thinner inside the cup using a backwash method. I'll be lightly misting the tissue and ligaments of the inner jaw with some red, yellow, orange, and pink. Although not completely necessary for this particular process, I'll be cleaning the cup and backwashing the brush inside a bowl of warm water. I'll be using some Xenomorph moldable plastic to create the teeth. The pellets are soaked in hot water and ready to be worked when they change from opaque white to crystal clear. I attached the plastic teeth to the wooden structure of the jaw with hot glue. But with full disclosure, I have to tell you that I had a hell of a time getting them to stay on. On several occasions, the teeth fell off after being touched, even after using other adhesive like crazy glue. I'll be happy to take any suggestions, just leave them in the comment section. Since I already had the Xenomorph out, I decided to finish up the teeth for the outer mouth. To establish a base for mounting the teeth, I utilized some 15mm EVA dowel to create a gum line. I used hot glue to attach the teeth to the foam dowel, and I had just as difficult a time keeping them attached as I did with the inner jaw. I used pieces of 1/4-inch ply to build up a structural base so that I could attach the inner jaw to the main body section. After measuring the gap between the main body section and the inner jaw, I cut pieces of 1/2-inch ply to fill the gap. I then glued and stapled the inner jaw to the main body section. This is one of my changes from the original design. I wanted the inner teeth to be coming out ready to strike instead of just sitting and wait inside. I'll be using the same 15mm EVA foam to create the structure of the outer bottom jaw. Because that bottom jaw has some complex bends to it, to keep the EVA foam dowel in place, I'm utilizing a piece of ground wire from Romex. I sharpened the end of the ground wire and fished it through the center of the EVA dowel. Before attaching the bottom jaw to the structure, I hot glued in the teeth. After putting the initial bend in the tubing for the bottom jaw, I shimmed up the space between the templates where it would go, then glued it in position. I used smaller pieces of reinforced dowel to create brace points to stabilize the lower jaw. I also used pieces of the dowels and 2mm EVA foam to create extra detail. Attaching it all with hot glue. To create the coiled sections of the head, I used small pieces of EVA dowel and folded it into a U form. From here on, all the added pieces will be random visions of my own design. Starting with various pieces of 2mm foam to close up the mouth section. I'm using coaxial cable to make a line detail across the side and front. My alien's also going to have a tongue. And no, it's not far-fetched. Remember, Ripley was licked by her alien son in Alien Resurrection. Again, one of the many times I had to replace a tooth because of glue failure. Since the tongue is going to be in a hard position to get to the paint, I'm going to pre-paint it now with a little orange and red. I'll carefully attach it with hot glue. I'll be skinning the bottom structure of the inner and outer jaw with 2mm pink foam. The pink is going to allow me to have a good color for the inside of the mouth without doing any further painting. I'll be attaching that 2mm EVA foam with contact cement. Before I put in the final details and create the neck, I'm gonna cover this section with a little skin. The first layer of skin is attached with hot glue. For the second layer, I'm using diluted white glue. The white glue, when dried, will give me a harder and more resilient surface. I decided to create a neck for my Xenomorph, which will also act as a stand. I have to admit that I have absolutely no idea how I'm gonna pull this off. I'm gonna play everything by ear. I'll be starting with two circles, one 4.5 inches in diameter, the other one at 7.5 inches in diameter. Also, I'm cutting some 2-inch wide strips of cardboard. I'm using a piece of 1-inch PVC pipe to roll form the cardboard strips. I'm attaching the rolled strips around the circumference of the cardboard disc with hot glue. With the top and bottom of the neck completed, I'm going to loosely use the strips to create the form that I want the neck to be in. Although I'm super careful every time I'm using the hot glue gun, I'm constantly burned with the drippings of the hot glue. But this time I actually touch my hands directly onto the tip of the hot glue gun, and I'm down to the white meat. But not to worry, it's not really that bad. I dressed it, cleaned it, and I put on all that bandage just so I could keep the dirt out of it and not get an infection. In true Army fashion, I have to soldier up, on with the mission. After establishing the shape that I wanted, I glued it up and started thinking of ways to stabilize it in that position. I knew I had to weigh down the bottom to keep that heavy head from tipping it over, so I started looking around the shop and I realized that I'd saved a pile of cutting wheels from my old shredder. I'm a bit of a pack rat for old parts, and they always come in handy. I use hot glue to attach and layer them to the bottom of the structure. I used a piece of PVC board to create a stiff skeletal structure. I covered the base structure containing the stabilizing weights. With that completed, I started on a rib structure to attach the outer skin to. I cut several more 2-inch strips of cardboard to create the first layer of skin. Before applying the outer layer of skin, I'm going to figure out a way to attach the head unit to the neck. I cut out a small window in the neck, exposing the rib joints. Then I cut a slot in a piece of wood, as well as putting an angle at the end. After gluing that in place and then covering the holes around the sides, I cut an angled slot in the top of the neck piece so that the angle on this board would coincide with the PVC board inside the neck. Along with gluing it in, I used a couple of shims to lock it into place. Although the two pieces were securely attached, I layered some cardboard and glued it into the empty space between the neck and the head. This was done to eliminate the pivot point that could have broken the bond of the hot glue. With that done, I could start applying the outer skin to the neck. The first layer of skin will be done with yellow craft paper. Before applying the second layer of skin, I decided to use my glue gun to create a little detail. I'm also using a little foam clay to enhance the gum line. I covered the entire bottom section and spray painted the crown silver. Then I used tissue paper as the outer skin, attaching it with diluted white glue. It was time to apply a base coat of paint to the neck. I started off with my airbrush, but decided that it would be quicker and more efficient using conventional spray can. After spraying on a gray base coat, I decided to use some 2mm foam to add additional detail. After cutting two kidney-shaped pieces out of 2mm foam, I utilized a straight edge and my X-Acto knife to cut some gill-like features. I heated and crumpled the pieces to create dimension. After spray painting the pieces black, I attached them with contact cement. To add additional detail, I used pieces of 3/8 inch corrugated plastic tubing, using hot glue to attach it to the structure, mirroring whatever I did to one side to the other side. For contrast in color and size, I added some coaxial cable. I used my airbrush to create some translucent eyes, which is seen on some xenomorphs. I used the same gray to tone down some of the whites of the cheeks. Instead of struggling to scrape off some of the excess hot glue, I just painted over it. To add a little more contrast to that guild section, I cut alternating pieces and then highlighted the inside with some light silver paint. I used that same silver to cover the white coaxial cable. The eyes were more translucent than I wanted them to be, so I brushed on some gray. And to finally finish off this build, I painted the gum line and the teeth. That marks the end to this project. As always, thanks for watching. And don't forget to subscribe, like, share, comment, and press the bell notification for future videos.